15 Strange Facts About Afghanistan. Afghanistan, often shown in the media as a place of conflict, suffering, and war, holds secrets that few understand. What if I told you that hidden within this war-torn land are some of the world's most extraordinary and strange facts? A country where women run for freedom, where ancient civilizations meet modern struggles, and where resilience thrives in the face of adversity. Welcome to Afghanistan, a land that defies the stereotypes and holds a rich, hidden history waiting to be uncovered. In this travel documentary, we're going to dive deeper than the headlines, going beyond the turbulent and controversial stories often told about Afghanistan. You'll witness how this country, known for its complex political situation, is home to incredible beauty, ancient cultural traditions, and remarkable people. And at the heart of it all are the women of Afghanistan, whose fight for freedom, education, and equality defies the odds. Afghanistan isn't just about conflict. It's also about the strength and grit of a people who have survived and thrived through thousands of years of history. From the ancient Silk Road to the modern-day struggle for women's rights, Afghanistan is a country of contradictions and complexity. But through it all, one thing remains clear. Afghanistan is full of hope, history, and stories of defiance that deserve to be told. In this documentary, we will explore 15 strange facts that reveal the true essence of Afghanistan. Facts that will shock, inspire, and open your eyes to the real stories of the Afghan people. You'll hear the untold stories of Afghan women who fight for their freedom and equality every day, against a backdrop of challenges most of us can't even imagine. So, buckle up as we uncover the strange, the beautiful, and the resilient heart of Afghanistan. Afghanistan's history stretches back thousands of years, and its role in the development of human civilization cannot be understated. Often overshadowed by its modern-day struggles, this land was once home to one of the oldest and most influential civilizations in the world. Bamiyan, Herat, and Ghazni are just a few examples of ancient Afghan cities that served as critical cultural hubs in the development of Central Asia, Persia, and even the ancient Greco-Roman world. Afghanistan's strategic location placed it at the heart of the Silk Road, the historic trade route that connected the East and West. Merchants, travelers, and cultural exchanges flowed through Afghanistan, leaving behind lasting marks on its culture, art, and architecture. In fact, the Bamiyan Buddhas, carved into the cliffs of central Afghanistan, were once considered the tallest statues of Buddha in the world before they were tragically destroyed. These statues were not just religious symbols, but also a testament to Afghanistan's role in the spread of Buddhism and trade across Asia. The Greeks, led by Alexander the Great, encountered these ancient civilizations when they arrived in Afghanistan in the 4th century BCE. Alexander's influence can still be seen today, with remnants of Hellenistic architecture scattered throughout the country. This period marked the arrival of Greek culture in Afghanistan, creating a fusion of local and Greek traditions that shaped the region for centuries to come. As the home of multiple empires, including the Persian Empire, the Mongol Empire, and the Timurid dynasty, Afghanistan's lands have seen some of the most significant battles and political transformations in history. From the Ghaznavid Empire in the 11th century to the Mughal Empire in the 16th century, Afghanistan was a crossroads for conquerors and cultures, leaving behind a rich cultural heritage that still resonates today. So, when you think of Afghanistan, remember that it isn't just a country marked by conflict. It's a cradle of civilization, with a history that stretches far beyond the challenges of the present. The land that we see today has shaped humanity's story for millennia, making it one of the most historically significant regions in the world. Afghan women have faced unimaginable challenges throughout history, often oppressed by a patriarchal society, wars, and extremist regimes. However, these women are not just survivors, they are fighters, defying the odds and pushing forward in their pursuit of freedom and equality. The struggle for women's rights in Afghanistan has become a symbol of resistance against not just social norms, but also political regimes that have long kept them silenced. The fight for freedom is especially visible in cities like Kabul and Herat, where women have been at the forefront of educational movements, protesting for the right to education and access to jobs. Under the rule of the Taliban from 1996 to 2001, Afghan women were restricted from working, attending school, or even leaving the house without a male chaperone. However, with the fall of the Taliban in 2001 and the subsequent efforts to rebuild Afghanistan, Afghan women began to carve out spaces for themselves in politics, education, and the workforce. In the years since, Afghan women have made significant strides despite the constant threats of violence, displacement, and harsh cultural restrictions. For example, the Afghan Women's Network has worked tirelessly to improve access to education and healthcare for women across the country. Women like Malalai Joya, an outspoken activist and former member of the Afghan parliament, have become international symbols of bravery and defiance in their fight for women's rights. Afghan women are often leaders in their communities, even under dangerous circumstances. Whether it's through advocacy, education, or entrepreneurship, these women have found ways to thrive, constantly fighting for their freedom and equality. Their resilience proves that even in one of the most challenging environments, women's voices are powerful, and their fight for freedom is unstoppable. While Afghanistan is often associated with conflict, one of its most intriguing and lesser-known facts is that the country is sitting on one of the largest untapped mineral reserves in the world. According to reports from the U.S. Geological Survey and other organizations, Afghanistan's natural resources, including copper, gold, lithium, and rare earth metals, are worth an astonishing trillions of dollars. One of the most significant discoveries in recent years was the vast lithium deposits found in Afghanistan. Lithium is a key component in smartphones, batteries, and electric vehicles, making it one of the most sought-after minerals for the future of technology. Afghanistan's Hindu Kush Mountains are also home to copper deposits that could rival those found in Chile, the world's largest producer of copper. In fact, Baghab, an area in the country, is known to have one of the largest untapped copper reserves in the world. However, these treasures remain largely untouched, not because of lack of resources or interest, but due to the constant conflict and political instability that have plagued Afghanistan for decades. Security concerns have prevented foreign companies from investing in the country's mining sector, leaving these valuable resources hidden beneath the earth. There's also the challenge of corruption, where infrastructure and safeguards are lacking to allow for safe, sustainable mining practices. Despite these challenges, the potential for Afghanistan to use these resources to fuel its economic growth is enormous. Experts believe that if managed properly, Afghanistan's mineral wealth could help create a stable economy, reduce poverty, and provide opportunities for education and job creation. But to unlock this potential, the country needs a stable environment, investment, and proper governance to ensure that these treasures benefit the Afghan people rather than contributing to more conflict. Afghanistan's unmined treasures stand as a testament to the country's untapped potential and the possibility of a brighter, more prosperous future, provided it can overcome its current challenges and open up its resources to global markets. Afghanistan has a deep-rooted tradition of storytelling and literature, one that spans over thousands of years. Despite the country's challenges, the love for poetry and literature continues to be a cornerstone of Afghan culture. Historically, Afghanistan has produced some of the world's most influential poets and philosophers, with a legacy of literary greatness that extends far beyond the country's borders. The most famous Afghan poet is undoubtedly Rumi, born in what is now Afghanistan in the 13th century. His poems about love, spirituality, and human connection have transcended time and national boundaries. Rumi's works have been translated into dozens of languages and continue to inspire millions around the world. His teachings, captured in works like the Divan-i-Shams, emphasize the pursuit of inner peace and a connection to the divine, making him an enduring figure in Afghan literature and the broader Persian cultural sphere. In addition to Rumi, Afghanistan is home to countless other notable poets and literary figures. Khwaja Abdullah Ansari, a 15th century mystic and poet, is widely revered for his contributions to Persian literature and his spiritual works. Khalilullah Khalili, a modern Afghan poet, captured the struggles of the Afghan people through his poignant verses and is often regarded as one of the greatest poets of Afghanistan's 20th century. Despite the country's turbulent modern history, Afghanistan's love for literature remains resilient. Poetry is not only an art form, but a means of expression, especially for the Afghan people, who have lived through decades of war, occupation, and political instability. Today, poetry readings and literary events are still held in various parts of the country, where people gather to celebrate the power of words and resilience through culture. Afghan poetry serves as a tool for cultural preservation, empowerment, and social change, especially for women and marginalized groups. Afghan women poets have used literature to voice their struggles for freedom, equality, and justice, creating a platform for their voices in a country where silence has often been imposed upon them. Afghanistan's culinary heritage is as diverse and rich as its history. Afghan cuisine is a fusion of flavors and influences from Central Asia, Persia, and the Indian subcontinent, creating a unique food culture that blends spices, herbs, and local ingredients in a way that is both comforting and exotic. Despite the country's challenges, Afghan food continues to be a source of pride and cultural identity, offering a window into the traditions of the people. One of the most popular and beloved dishes in Afghanistan is kebabs. Afghan-style kebabs are often made with lamb, beef, or chicken, marinated in spices such as turmeric, garlic, and ginger, and then grilled to perfection. These kebabs are a symbol of hospitality and are often served at large gatherings, celebrations, and family feasts. Another iconic dish is kabili pulao, which is considered Afghanistan's national dish. This flavor-packed rice dish is often made with fragrant basmati rice, slow-cooked lamb, and caramelized carrots and raisins, providing a combination of sweet, savory, and rich flavors. It is a dish served during special occasions, such as weddings, holidays, and festivals. Afghan dumplings, known as mantu, are also a popular treat. These delicate parcels of dough are filled with a mixture of ground meat, usually beef or lamb, and onions, and then steamed. They are served with a dollop of yogurt and spicy tomato sauce, offering a satisfying and flavorful bite. The diversity of Afghan cuisine is not just limited to meat-based dishes. Vegetarian meals like biryani banjan, eggplant cooked with tomatoes and yogurt, and ashak leek-filled dumplings are also staples in Afghan households. Bread or naan is an essential part of the daily Afghan meal, and it is often freshly baked in tandoor ovens. The use of fresh ingredients like pomegranate, herbs, and citrus adds a light and refreshing quality to Afghan dishes, offering an intriguing contrast to the often hearty and rich main courses. Afghan food reflects the country's hospitality, where meals are shared with loved ones, and the traditions of sharing are deeply embedded in the culture. Afghan cuisine, despite being influenced by centuries of invasions and trade, has managed to retain a distinct identity that is reflective of the Afghan people's resilience, resourcefulness, and connection to their history. Afghanistan's mountainous terrain is one of the most striking and beautiful landscapes in the world. The Hindu Kush mountain range, which stretches through the heart of Afghanistan, is home to some of the most rugged and awe-inspiring peaks on Earth. These towering mountains, with their snow-capped summits, majestic valleys, and deep gorges, have stood as silent witnesses to Afghanistan's complex history. The Hindu Kush Range is often described as the spine of Afghanistan, separating the country's northern and southern regions. These mountains are not just geographical features, but have served as cultural and spiritual symbols for the Afghan people for centuries. Nomadic herders, mountain tribes, and adventurers alike have traversed these peaks, finding both beauty and hardship in the mountains' isolation. The Tajik, Hazaras, and Pashtun are some of the ethnic groups that have lived in these rugged mountains for centuries, adapting to the harsh climate and landscapes. These high-altitude regions are often isolated, and the people living in them have maintained traditional lifestyles that have remained largely untouched by the modern world. They raise livestock like goats and sheep and produce goods such as wool and dairy products. The beauty of Afghanistan's mountains is also seen in the way they serve as natural fortresses. The ancient city of Bamiyan, where the iconic Buddha statues once stood, is nestled in a valley between these mountains. This area is known for its stunning scenery, where ancient ruins, cliffs, and caves tell stories of Afghanistan's rich past. Afghanistan's mountains, although difficult to access, are home to some of the most peaceful and serene landscapes in the world. The views of the Hindu Kush Range offer a profound sense of connection to the natural world, a rare sight in a country too often associated with conflict. Whether seen from the ground or from above, Afghanistan's mountains stand as a symbol of the country's strength and timeless beauty. Afghanistan has long been known as a major player in the global opium trade, and its role in the production of poppy has been both an economic necessity and a source of conflict. Afghanistan is the world's largest producer of opium, responsible for up to 90% of the world's illicit opium supply, which is the key ingredient in the production of heroin. The country's rugged terrain, combined with the lack of economic opportunity and infrastructure, has made it a breeding ground for the illegal poppy industry. The poppy harvest begins each spring, when farmers in rural Afghanistan plant the opium poppy seeds. These flowers are a symbol of contradiction. While they offer a source of income to struggling Afghan families, they also fuel an international drug trade that brings violence, poverty, and social instability to the country. In regions like Helmand, Kandahar, and Badakhshan, the poppy fields stretch across the landscape, serving as a critical cash crop for many farmers. For these farmers, the decision to grow poppy is often born out of necessity, not choice. Security issues, lack of alternative employment, and poor infrastructure make it incredibly difficult to cultivate other crops. The profits from the poppy trade have funded insurgency groups, including the Taliban, further complicating the already complex political situation in Afghanistan. International efforts to reduce poppy cultivation have faced numerous hurdles, including corruption, lack of enforcement, and ongoing conflict. While various programs have aimed to provide alternative livelihoods for farmers, many continue to rely on the poppy due to the high demand for opium in global markets. Despite these challenges, there are local and global efforts to shift Afghanistan's economy away from its reliance on the poppy harvest, but success has been slow and uncertain. Among the most unique and dangerous sports in the world is buzkashi, Afghanistan's traditional sport that has been played for centuries. Often described as a mix of polo and rugby, buzkashi is played on horseback, where teams of riders battle to gain control of a headless goat carcass and carry it across a goal line. The sport is deeply embedded in Afghan culture, especially in the north and central regions, and has become a symbol of strength, bravery, and honor. In buzkashi, players on horseback fight for possession of the carcass by any means necessary, using force and skill to outmaneuver their opponents. The game is incredibly physical, and the level of violence can be shocking to outsiders. Riders will often engage in full-contact battles, trying to knock each other off their horses or wrestle the carcass from one another. The sport is played on rough terrain, adding to the danger of the game, as riders navigate muddy fields and uneven ground at high speeds. The combination of horsepower, athleticism, and brutality makes buzkashi not only a thrilling spectacle, but also a test of endurance and courage. Buzkashi is more than just a sport. It's an important cultural event that brings communities together. It is often played during festivals, weddings, or national celebrations, and the best players are treated like heroes in Afghan society. The sport has also become a rallying point for communities, where rivalries and pride are fiercely defended. While buzkashi has traditional roots, it has also evolved over time and gained recognition outside of Afghanistan. Despite its violent nature, it is celebrated for the bravery and skills of its players, and the sport holds a deep connection to Afghanistan's nomadic heritage and the values of strength and resilience. Afghanistan's desert landscapes are as mysterious as they are beautiful, and the sand dunes of Afghanistan are some of the oldest and most enigmatic in the world. The Registan Desert in the south of Afghanistan is a vast, sweeping stretch of golden sand dunes, home to some of the most isolated and untouched parts of the country. These dunes have existed for thousands of years, serving as natural barriers between regions and shaping the culture of the people who live there. The sand dunes of Afghanistan are not just a natural wonder. They are also tied to ancient trade routes and have been a witness to the history of Afghanistan. The Registan Desert was once part of the route that connected the Silk Road, where merchants and travelers passed through centuries ago. As these dunes shift with the winds, they hide ancient relics, artifacts, and ruins that speak to the country's long history of trade, conquest, and settlement. In the heart of these dunes, some of Afghanistan's most ancient and unexplored archaeological sites can be found, including the remains of ancient cities and caravanserais, which once served as stopping points for traders. The Hazarajat region, often shrouded in mystery, contains some of the most remote and unstudied desert landscapes, with dunes that have been a witness to the rise and fall of empires and civilizations. The mystery of the Afghan sand dunes lies not just in their natural beauty, but in the stories they hold. For centuries, they have been a barrier separating regions and people, but they have also been a symbol of survival for those who have crossed them. Nomadic tribes, caravan workers, and ancient traders navigated the treacherous dunes, learning to survive in some of the harshest conditions on Earth. Despite the vast desert landscapes, life still thrives in the deserts of Afghanistan, as nomadic herders have adapted to the harsh conditions. These ancient sand dunes, standing as timeless witnesses, continue to be a mystery that draws adventurers, archaeologists, and travelers eager to uncover the secrets of the past and understand the deep connection between Afghanistan's history and its desert landscapes. Despite Afghanistan's tumultuous history of war, political instability, and cultural upheaval, the Afghan film industry has resiliently survived and even thrived in the face of adversity. The Afghan film industry, which dates back to the early 20th century, has had its ups and downs, but it remains an essential part of the country's cultural expression and identity. In the early days of cinema, Afghanistan saw the emergence of films that explored the country's cultural traditions, family dynamics, and daily life. However, after the Soviet invasion in the 1980s and the rise of the Taliban in the 1990s, the industry faced enormous challenges. The Taliban's strict rule, which imposed severe restrictions on freedom of expression, including banning movies, nearly wiped out Afghan cinema. During this period, movie theaters were closed and filmmaking was suppressed, with female roles particularly restricted. However, following the fall of the Taliban regime in the early 2000s, the Afghan film industry began to rebuild itself. Filmmakers, both Afghan nationals and international partners, sought to highlight Afghanistan's rich cultural heritage while addressing modern-day struggles and social issues. Afghanistan's film industry began to gain international attention with films like Osama, which was nominated for an Academy Award, and The Kite Runner, based on the best-selling novel by Khaled Hosseini. These films provided a window into the Afghan experience, portraying both the beauty of Afghan culture and the pain of its political struggles. Today, the Afghan film industry is pushing forward, with filmmakers like Siddiq Barmak and Sharm Aladai taking on issues such as human rights, women's struggles, and identity in their works. Afghan cinema provides a platform for social change, as well as a source of pride for the Afghan people. Despite facing financial constraints and continued political instability, the Afghan film industry continues to offer an authentic, raw depiction of life in Afghanistan, showing the world that the spirit of creativity and expression cannot be extinguished. Afghanistan's carpet weaving tradition is one of the country's most resilient cultural practices, symbolizing the strength, creativity, and perseverance of its people. For centuries, Afghan carpets have been regarded as some of the finest in the world, with intricate designs, vibrant colors, and expert craftsmanship that have made them highly sought after by collectors and art lovers globally. The tradition of carpet weaving is deeply ingrained in Afghan society, particularly among nomadic tribes in rural areas, where women play a central role in the creation of these stunning works of art. Afghan carpets are typically hand-woven using wool or silk, with each knot tied by hand, making the process incredibly time-consuming and labor-intensive. The designs, often based on tribal motifs and geometric patterns, reflect the cultural diversity and rich heritage of Afghanistan's many ethnic groups. In the Kabul, Herat, and Mazar-e-Sharif regions, carpet weaving is a significant source of income for many Afghan families, especially for women. The production of handmade carpets provides financial independence for women, many of whom would otherwise face limited economic opportunities due to societal restrictions. The act of weaving a carpet is not only a craft, but a form of storytelling, with each design carrying symbolic meaning. Many carpets feature designs that reflect the spiritual and cultural beliefs of the weavers, with intricate patterns representing nature, life cycles, and family heritage. Afghan carpets have become a symbol of resilience for the Afghan people, especially women. Despite the devastating effects of war, displacement, and political instability, carpet weaving remains an enduring symbol of Afghan ingenuity and cultural preservation. This art form has survived centuries of upheaval, and it continues to thrive today, with Afghan carpets still being exported to markets around the world, where they are admired for their beauty and craftsmanship. Through the tradition of carpet weaving, Afghan women not only contribute to their family's economic well-being, but also uphold an important cultural practice that carries the essence of Afghan identity and history. The Afghan carpet remains a symbol of strength, resilience, and hope for a brighter future. Afghanistan is one of the most linguistically diverse countries in the world, with over 30 languages spoken across the country. This diversity is a reflection of the country's ethnic complexity and its long history as a crossroads of various civilizations, cultures, and empires. The two official languages of Afghanistan are Dari, a dialect of Persian, and Pashto, but the vast array of regional languages highlights the country's multicultural and multilingual society. Dari, spoken by the majority of the population, is the language of culture, literature, and administration. It's often used in government, media, and education, and is widely understood across Afghanistan. On the other hand, Pashto, spoken predominantly by the Pashtun people, holds deep cultural significance and is often associated with the country's tribal and traditional societies. In addition to Dari and Pashto, Afghanistan is home to a variety of regional languages, including Uzbek, Turkmen, Balochi, Nuristani, and Hazaragi. Each of these languages serves as a marker of ethnic identity, and the people who speak them often use their language as a means of preserving their culture, heritage, and traditions. For example, the Uzbek language is spoken in the northern regions of Afghanistan by the Uzbek ethnic group, while Balochi is predominantly spoken by communities in the southwest. These languages, along with Hazaragi, a variant of Dari spoken by the Hazara ethnic group, are key to understanding the country's cultural mosaic. The diversity of languages in Afghanistan is also a source of unity in some ways, as people from different regions often speak multiple languages, allowing them to communicate across cultural and ethnic divides. Despite the country's challenges, Afghan people have maintained their linguistic diversity, and language continues to play an essential role in their daily lives. The multilingual nature of Afghanistan makes it a rich cultural landscape, where literature, poetry, and storytelling thrive in various tongues. Even in the midst of conflict and strife, the diversity of Afghan languages remains a testament to the resilience of the Afghan people and their ability to preserve their identity through language. Afghanistan's strategic location has made it a key crossroads throughout history, especially during the height of the Silk Road trade network. The Silk Road was a vast network of trade routes that connected China, India, Persia, and the Mediterranean, allowing goods, ideas, and cultures to flow across continents. Afghanistan's central position between Asia and the Middle East placed it at the heart of these trade routes, making it an important hub for cultural exchange and economic trade for thousands of years. During the ancient and medieval periods, Afghanistan was a crucial passageway for silk, spices, precious stones, and luxury goods, which were exchanged along the road. The cities of Herat, Kabul, and Bamiyan became centers of commerce, culture, and learning. For centuries, Afghanistan thrived as a melting pot of diverse cultures, as traders, scholars, and artists passed through on their way to other parts of the world. Afghanistan's geopolitical importance in the Silk Road era also led to its involvement in the rise and fall of numerous empires, such as the Greco-Bactrian Kingdom, the Persian Empire, and later, the Mughal Empire. These empires not only influenced the region politically, but also enriched it culturally, leaving behind a legacy of art, architecture, and scientific advancements that shaped the broader region. One of the most famous travelers who passed through Afghanistan was Marco Polo, whose accounts in the 13th century described the thriving cities and rich cultural exchanges he encountered along the Silk Road. Even in modern times, Afghanistan's historical significance as a Silk Road crossroads continues to be a point of pride. The influence of these ancient trade routes can still be seen in Afghanistan's art, architecture, and food, as elements from Persian, Indian, Greek, and Central Asian cultures continue to permeate the country's identity. While Afghanistan today is often associated with conflict and instability, its role in the global Silk Road shows the country's rich historical and cultural significance. Afghanistan's legacy as a trade nexus reminds the world of the cultural wealth and connections that have flowed through this land for millennia. One of the most cherished aspects of Afghan culture is its legendary hospitality. Afghanistan has long been known for its tradition of welcoming strangers with open arms, offering food, shelter, and protection, no matter who they are or where they come from. This deeply ingrained custom has been passed down through generations, and it remains a cornerstone of Afghan culture today. The concept of hospitality is so important in Afghanistan that it is not merely about offering comfort to guests, but it is seen as a moral obligation and a matter of pride. The Afghan word for hospitality, mehman-nawazi, means to treat a guest with the utmost respect, generosity, and kindness. In Afghan culture, guests are considered a gift, and the host's duty is to provide them with the best that the household can offer. Afghan hospitality is particularly evident during special occasions such as weddings, religious festivals, and family gatherings, where it is common to see elaborate feasts and communal meals shared among friends and family. Dishes like kebabs, kabili palaw, and mantu are served in abundance, ensuring that no guest leave hungry. Traditional Afghan tea and sweets are also shared, marking the warmth and sweetness of the hospitality extended to visitors. The spirit of Afghan hospitality is not limited to formal occasions. Travelers, refugees, and even foreigners who find themselves in Afghanistan often experience the unexpected generosity of the Afghan people. In rural areas, it's common for strangers to be welcomed into a home for a meal and a place to rest, regardless of their background or nationality. This sense of community and solidarity among Afghans reflects a deep sense of humanity and care that transcends the hardships the country has faced. Afghan hospitality is also seen in the way that people go out of their way to ensure that visitors feel safe and comfortable. It's not unusual for people in Afghanistan to offer directions, assistance, or even financial support to a stranger in need. The hospitality shown to foreigners, even in difficult times, often serves as a reminder of Afghanistan's resilient and generous spirit. Despite the challenges Afghanistan faces, the tradition of hospitality remains a symbol of the country's cultural richness, warmth, and kindness. It is a testament to the Afghan people's commitment to making the world feel like a place where everyone belongs. Afghanistan's struggle for independence and peace has been a central theme throughout its history. From the days of foreign invasions to the more recent conflicts of the 20th and 21st centuries, Afghanistan has continually fought to preserve its sovereignty, its culture, and its freedom in the face of external pressures. Afghanistan's first major struggle for independence came in the early 20th century, when the country fought off British colonial rule. The First Anglo-Afghan War in 1839 and the Second Anglo-Afghan War in 1878 were defining moments in Afghanistan's resistance against British imperialism. Despite the British Empire's military might, Afghanistan's bravery and determination allowed it to retain its sovereignty. The final blow to British imperial ambitions came in 1919, when King Amanullah Khan successfully declared Afghanistan's full independence, ending nearly a century of British influence. However, the struggle for peace and stability didn't end there. Throughout the 20th century, Afghanistan experienced a series of political upheavals, including a Soviet invasion in 1979, which led to a decade-long war. The Soviet withdrawal in 1989 left the country in the midst of a civil war, which eventually led to the rise of the Taliban in the 1990s. The Taliban's reign brought oppression, especially for women, and led to further political instability. The post-9/11 era marked another critical chapter in Afghanistan's journey towards peace. The U.S.-led invasion in 2001 ousted the Taliban, but Afghanistan has struggled to achieve lasting stability since then. Taliban insurgency, terrorism, and political corruption have continued to undermine the country's progress. Despite these challenges, the Afghan people's desire for peace has never wavered. Afghan civil society, women's rights movements, and community-based initiatives continue to fight for a better future, where Afghanistan can finally experience peace, prosperity, and independence. The Afghan people, including youth and activists, are leading the charge in demanding democratic reforms, education, and economic development. Afghanistan's struggle for peace and independence is not just a battle for sovereignty, but a fight for a future free from violence and oppression. The people of Afghanistan continue to demonstrate their resilience and hope for a better tomorrow, where they can live in a peaceful, prosperous society. Afghanistan, often misunderstood and overshadowed by headlines of conflict, holds within it a rich tapestry of history, culture, and resilience that has been shaped by centuries of struggle and triumph. From the ancient Silk Road that passed through its mountains, to the oppressive struggles of Afghan women fighting for freedom, to the diversity of languages and cultural traditions, Afghanistan is a country of contradictions, one that blends beauty with hardship and history with hope. The journey through Afghanistan's strange facts reveals a country far more complex than many perceive. Yes, Afghanistan has been ravaged by war and political instability, but its legacy goes beyond the destruction. It is also a legacy of resilience, endurance, and unshakable pride. The Afghan people have lived through centuries of invasions, economic turmoil, and social restrictions, but their spirit remains unbroken. Through art, poetry, and literature, they have shared their stories with the world, reminding us that their culture has thrived for millennia, long before the world knew Afghanistan for its modern struggles. The resilient women of Afghanistan, who have defied centuries of oppression, are the heart of the country's fight for freedom and equality. Their struggle is not just a personal battle, but a cultural movement that has reached beyond Afghan borders, inspiring countless others around the world. Their courage continues to fuel the flames of change, and their stories deserve to be heard as symbols of hope for future generations. Afghanistan's untapped resources and natural treasures stand as a reminder of the country's potential, waiting to be unlocked by a future of peace and stability. Despite the harsh conditions, the Afghan people's hospitality, generosity, and warmth are an enduring testament to the human spirit. The same people who have endured countless struggles continue to offer their hearts and homes to strangers, teaching the world that in the face of adversity, compassion and community are paramount. Afghanistan's path to lasting peace and prosperity remains uncertain, but the struggles and strengths of its people will continue to define its future. As we reflect on these 15 strange facts, let us remember that Afghanistan is a country not defined solely by conflict, but by its resilience, rich history, and the hope of those who continue to fight for a better tomorrow. In understanding Afghanistan, we find not only a nation fighting for its future, but also a world that can learn from its courage and perseverance. Let us continue to share these stories, to honor the Afghan people, and to never forget that even in the darkest of times, the light of hope will always burn bright.